Hey guys, it's Anna, and this is True Lovelis. All right, Happy New Year. I'm late, aren't I? It's 2017. God, thank God it's over. Thank God 2016 is over. It's over. It's funny, every year after like the Christmas season and Hanukkah and all that stuff, I'm like, oh my God, I've had enough of it. And then I think like next year, I'm just like, when you get this fill of the holidays, and then you're like, I just don't want any more holidays ever again. And then come November, you're like, ooh, it's the holidays. Isn't that funny? Life is cyclic, isn't it? It just goes in cycles and cycles and cycles. And one of the, I think one of the reasons or one of the meanings of life is that you go around in a circle and you encounter the same things, but how do you do them different, and how do you have a different experience, and how do you change your vantage point? How do you look at things differently? How do you react differently? How do you accept things differently? How do you grow and evolve as a person? So I think that that's why things are cyclic, so that we can experience the same thing but see them from different places in our hearts and our minds. So there's some questions. I asked everybody for some questions, and I'm also going to get to talking about my EP, and I'm going to call a friend of mine who's the producer of the EP and find out what's going on, because we tend to do this thing where we talk about the EP in text messages and we throw back and forth ideas, and then I get really busy and I desert him, and he gets really busy and doesn't text back, whatever. It's like that same thing. And then you come back and you're like, what were you talking about? So I'm going to just call him on the phone and see what we're doing. He never answers the phone, so there's a chance that it'll just be me leaving a message and then going back to our questions and everything. So let's look at some of these questions. Maddie Adams at KMed1030 said, how's Sarabella doing? Is she recovering? Okay, so you must have seen my Instagram video about Sarabella. She got very upset because Aldenach, my 17, almost 18-year-old cat, who's a miserable fucker, swiped her today, like a little swipe. And we don't want her to know, but it really wasn't that big of a deal. But she thought it was like, she acted like she was in Game of Thrones, she wanted to burn the whole place down. Anyway, Sarabella's doing great. She's taking a nap now, probably because she's so upset and she spent so much time licking herself and crying that she just exhausted herself. Let's see. Thank you for your question, Maddie. This is from Maddie too. How do I find the time in my busy schedule to write and play music? Well, I have a great thing to tell you. I don't know if it's great or not, but whatever. So the hardest thing for us to do as human beings is to schedule things that are important to us. We get wrapped up in stuff that really, we have to do, the have-tos. We have to do this and we have to do that, and we have to finish this and we have to finish that, or someone's expecting us to do this, or like the expectations. But then when it comes to actually being and inviting our own creativity and inviting our own cathartic experiences, they get pushed to the back burner. They get pushed to the wayside. I've done it. I know exactly what you're talking about. I'm not always artistic. I'm not always writing like I say I'm going to do. We all fall into that. We just get caught up in life. But here's the thing. Uh-oh, Aldenach's walking toward me. He could attack me any minute. Here's the thing about finding time. You have to make it a priority. You have to say, for 10 minutes a day at 7 o'clock, I'm going to write and play music. And you do 10 minutes a week. And then the next week you go, I'm going to do 20 minutes. And then you do a half an hour. Like, you have to schedule in time. And the reason why I'm saying 10 minutes or 20 minutes is because when we tend to say, I'm going to do this for an hour every day, it becomes overwhelming and it gets in the way of things. And we haven't quite turned our minds and our hearts toward ourselves and our priorities. So it gets more difficult. It's like, oh, I didn't do an hour today. Like, 2 minutes of creativity is better than no minutes of creativity. You see what I'm talking about? So something that you really want to do and something that's important to you, just put 2 minutes a day toward it, and then 3 minutes a day, and then 4 minutes a day. You have to find the time to let the little creative monster inside of you out. It's the most important thing you have to do, and it'll make for a life where you look back and you remember all those creative moments, and you can share that creation, that creativity part of yourself with others, and you develop as an artist. So you have to do it. Set an alarm on your phone, whatever time, after you get home from school, after you get home from work, after you do whatever, and go, I'm going to spend 10 minutes. And then the next week, and put it, you know what I do? I started putting stuff in my calendar. Like every day for a week, I was going to write about blah, blah, blah. And then the next week I scheduled out, this week I'm going to write about blah, blah, blah. Like, so I had reminders. Every day I would get a reminder saying, don't forget, do this, 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 and this. And I would stop everything right there. It doesn't matter what I was doing. I would just stop that, go over to the computer and write or do whatever that creative process is I wanted to do. So good luck. I want you to do it. I want you to express yourself. Okay. Oh, hi at STFU Cassidy. I love you, Cassidy. Cassidy is one of my favorite people on the whole planet. She's a sweetheart, and she's really artistic, and she's cool, and she's just, I consider you a friend, Cassidy. You're really great. So your question was, when you can't do anything to help or change the situation, how do you emotionally cope with hard times? Well, there's two ways. The first thing is, one way that I learned very late in life is that you have to remember that everything changes and everything passes. So this too shall pass is a big mantra of mine. This too shall pass, this too shall pass, this too shall pass. Nothing stays the same. So you have to remember that what was happening 5 years ago is not happening now. We all have moments where something really horrible and bad is happening, and sometimes it ends even worse than we thought, but these are your life experiences. So realizing that this feeling that you have about how difficult things are is right now and it's in the present, but that it's not going to be forever. And that helps. And then the second thing that I do that really helps with how to emotionally cope with hard times is, the first thing I do is I go right to the emotional. If something's upsetting and I need to cry about it, I will allow myself, I don't deny myself the emotion. I really cry, and I cry hard. I cry from the very center of my belly, and I cry and my heart hurts. And I really let it happen, because we're human and we're meant to experience emotions. So why tighten up and try and not feel anything, or anger. Like when I get angry about something, I find a way to express it. Or I talk to someone like, I'm pissed off about this, and this was wrong, and this was an injustice, or, whatever, this person did this, and I will express my anger. You have to get that out. And that's the first step, is just like that cleansing. And then the most important thing is trying to have empathy with ourselves and go, I'm so sorry, that you're feeling like this. And I'm so sorry that you're going through this really bad time. And let yourself be there for yourself. Because sometimes we just tighten up, and, you can feel it. As I'm describing it to you, think about that feeling when you get upset about something, or you get angry about something, or you get something really breaks your heart. Like we tighten up in our neck and our heart and our chest, and our bodies become constricted, and that blocks us, and it doesn't allow this too shall pass. It doesn't allow it to pass. Okay. And so you don't need to let go of things right away, but you definitely have to let things eventually dissolve and change and morph and become something else. So I do allow myself to emotionally go 150% into it. I don't deny myself that. And I'm very understanding of how I am when I'm emotional. You know, someone hurt me or someone said something or I'm in a situation that's fucked up and I don't go like, you know, I do try to survive pretty crazy, insane situations, but I do go, man, this is fucked up. This is whacked out. This is really like, I didn't do anything to deserve this. And then I allow myself to have my feelings. I write a lot when something's crazy and there's a situation I can't change. And I also rely on my support group, you know, which is my family. And I don't have anybody but Kenny and the girls, you know, as my close family because my mom and dad are dead. But I rely on them. You know, I talk. We're very communicative and we don't hold things back. And that helps. So I hope those couple of ideas help you with whatever the situation is. And I hope that you're okay. All right. Love you a lot, Cassidy. Thank you so much for the question. Let's see. Rena's Legs at Rena's Legs asked me, what are your plans for the holidays this year? Well, you know, there's always this crazy spinning disco ball of a life that all of us have in this household anyway. Everything's always just kind of in flux and madness. So the holidays are usually time when we either just kind of chill out at home and we're just around one another and we make food and we're just together. Or we also sometimes rent an RV and then we go kind of traveling. We love to kind of travel and do overnights together. So, but we never plan that stuff in advance. It's always kind of like last minute. So we shall see what happens. I hope you guys all have a great holiday as well. Melody Hoare, my friend James, that I've known forever. We met on a music forum for the band Tweaker, Chris Verana's project. And I've loved James and his creations and his music for a long time. You should go follow him and check him out. He does amazing remixes as well. When you write, what kind of preparations do you make? Like, do you have a certain kind of lighting / atmosphere? Well, when I'm in my own studio, there's definitely an air of, you know, creating an atmosphere and dimming the lights and just kind of like isolation. I like to be really vulnerable and just feel like I'm in a sacred space. I light incense and candles and all those kind of like witchy things that you would probably imagine me doing. When I'm in other people's studios, I don't always have the luxury of candles and incense and stuff. Like one time I was recording at the Paramount Studios, which was incredible. Like I had goosebumps the whole time, but it was this big studio and it was a big recording studio and I really had no control. It was just like, go in there and sing, you know, or go in there and write. And there was a grand piano and me and a guy sat there and wrote on the piano and the other guy who was writing with us was creating beats, but there was no atmosphere other than the kind of like thrown in camaraderie that I had with them. And then another time I remember that I wrote up in the Hollywood Hills and I was in this kind of like this rental mansion. There's these mansions that like studios or labels will rent out for their producers to come into town, whether they're coming in from the UK or wherever, New York or something. And so I went up there. There were a few producers and writers up there that were staying in this house and they had set up their recording equipment. And we just sat on the couch and we just wrote. There was really no kind of atmosphere. We were just all in a cramped kind of room. But the outside of the house, we would take breaks and we would go outside. And the patio and the pool were overlooking the entire landscape of downtown LA. And at night, it just became this beautiful, like you'd walk outside and see all of the twinkling lights from the buildings and the starry sky. And you could hear the water from the pool running. It was just really beautiful. So I didn't really do that, but I remember that being a really special time. And then one of my favorite places in the whole world to write is this studio down in Orange County, where my friend Adam Watts and Gannon Arnold have their production company called Broken City and Broken City Artists. And I love working down there, but they're much more, the atmosphere is awesome because the place is just decorated and there's a vibe there. There's an atmosphere. The lights dim and it's really cool. And Adam has all his art in there and he's a really great artist. You should check it out on his website, which I'll leave a little link to in the bio. But there we light candles and incense and create a really cool vibe. And I feel like some of the best stuff that I've ever been a part of has happened there. And actually, those are the guys, and Adam is the producer who's been working with me on my EP, which I'm kind of like trying to figure out what's going to happen and what's not going to happen. In fact, why don't we call him and ask him what's happening? Because we do these text messages where we text about it and then we both get busy and stuff like that. And let me call him and see what the story is. And maybe we can figure out if this EP is actually going to come out or not. LOL. Okay, I'm going to go on the speaker, so my voice is going to change here. So check it out. So let's call him. Let's see what happens. It's not very loud, is it? I'm just going to call because I'm recording a podcast and I want to know, what are we doing? Ladies and gentlemen, children and animals far and wide, Adam Watts, the great Adam Watts. What are we doing? Okay, first of all, it's an anomaly that you picked up the phone. So like it's meant to be. What are we doing? What are we doing with this EP? Are we releasing music? Are we not? We just gonna listen to it ourselves the rest of our lives?
That's been the plan.
That's pretty much been the structure.
Doesn't that seem enough? That's sort of like the almost version of not releasing anything and then dying and then having it discovered and then it comes out and everybody loves it.
So should we do that?
You can't go back now. I mean, we could kill each
other. Which has been my wish the whole time. A standoff. Like, we'll just do that thing where, like, the cowboys walk. They do, like, 20 paces. Turn around, shoot each other.
Or let's do the Lemmings thing where we just run and then there's a cliff and then we run off.
But I know what you'll do. You'll stop at the edge, look back, and point and laugh.
That's true. I'll wear a bungee cord. Secret bungee cord. That's a good name for the EP.
Totally sucks. The concept sucks, but the name is awesome. Secret bungee cord.
Both suck. Be honest to your fans here.
I don't want to be. First of all, I don't have any fans, and number two, when was I ever honest?
You at least have a ceiling fan. Hey, check it out. Let's do. You're doing an EP. That's really been something that you're doing for quite a while now, whether you do it or not.
Well, I mean, we talked about one song for a while because we both loved it. So it's like we definitely were totally immersed in doing that. I just didn't know what else. I don't know. We've been ruminating, and I feel like I've been running in the opposite direction because every time you've ever brought up me doing something, I run from it. So yeah.
Now you're tired.
I'm not tired. I'm not tired.
Well, you're not running anymore. So what does that mean?
Oh, I see. You mean in the scenario?
Yeah, I was staying in the old analogy.
Right.
So here, I think, you're releasing an EP, that's for sure. And we were talking about songs this morning, and they were, there was a snowball effect.
Uh-huh.
We started writing them down.
Yeah.
So it was like, how about this one? How about that one? Then it was like, well, if you put that one on, then this one has to go on so that there's a bridge between this one and that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
For the folks at home, that's called A&R. You just talk about how this one needs to go with that one.
Uh-huh.
And this bridges that. These are songs. How the furthest one back is the one
Yeah.
that I haven't heard in forever.
Yeah.
And
It's one of my favorites. Like, I don't know.
too.
No, really though? Really? Like for serious? Really?
Yeah, for multiple reasons. For one, because even though we wrote it with other intentions in mind,
Yeah.
it it never felt like it even got re-recorded, but it just never felt like it was anything but that first recording.
Yeah.
And the vocal performance is freaking insane.
Well, thank you. I hope that
I'm surprised.
you got the check so that in the mail that I sent you to compliment my voice.
Yeah,
But
you're gonna owe me more, but
I pretty much owe you like at least 3 lifetimes at this point. But
no, it's amazing. I mean, that was the thing that was making me like all like this has to come out soon. It's just like those can't sit there on a hard drive. I went over the hard drive and it was bleeding and crying
really,
from the vocal performances alone.
for 3 to 5 years, it's been crying. It must be all dried out.
And bleeding.
Wow,
Yeah, it's like
crazy.
I don't know what it is.
It's
A
mummified.
statue that bleeds.
Mm-hmm.
What's it called?
Oh, it's
Statue of Liberty.
no, the Statue of Liberty doesn't bleed. Oh, Lourdes. It's like the statue. It's Lourdes, right? It's the one, or is that the one that cries?
I think it cries.
Mm. There is one that bleeds though, that has like the stigmata of Christ.
Yeah. Maybe we've taken this too far. I mean, the EP's good.
Right, but there's no statue of Christ bleeding for my EP.
Through the EP.
Right.
No. But I will say this. I didn't even remember, should we say the title of the song?
Yeah,
You say it.
the
I
end
didn't
of
even remember that
it's the end of the beginning, right? That's the one
Yeah.
you're talking about? Yeah.
so much of that song was like, I was thinking it was different or something. I don't
Really?
know. It was a pleasant surprise.
Huh.
I think because we re-recorded it, and then when we re-recorded it was like recorded in tons of different like stages, and it was meant to be some kind of like 4-voice duet and stuff.
Yeah.
So I kind of lost it replaced my memory. But anyways, I'm happy, and actually, the mix didn't sound.
I know. You know what's crazy is that you sent that mix, and you know, like that night or the next morning after we recorded it, and you called it the gut instinct mix. Remember? And then,
I did.
like, you texted me the next morning, and you were like, "Okay, I'm gonna go in and remix it." And I was like, "No!" And then you're like, "Oh yeah, I don't know what happened. Like, I think like at the time you were just in it, you were immersed in it. You know what I mean?" And
That's my favorite.
yeah, and that was a crazy writing session because I think Andy Dodd was in where does he live? Nashville. He was in Nashville, so he was on Skype, and then Gannon was like sitting on the couch, and it was a Sunday. I don't know if you remember this or not, but like Kenny and I were home, and you were like, "Hey, can you come down?" I was like, "Yeah," and I said, "I'm going to invite Kenny," and Kenny came down and kind of like took naps on the couch, and then would wake up and be like, "Oh, this is fucking amazing! This is fucking amazing!" and then go back to sleep. So, like, because he works all week, so he was just exhausted, but happy to be like witnessing us writing and stuff. And
awesome.
we went really late that night, and everybody was exhausted, and that's. I don't know if you did you listen to the bridge, because my voice sounds a little different in the bridge. Did you notice? it's like the most.
I mean, that's where the razor blades hit. That's where like the blood comes from.
Yeah, the most tired and yet most vulnerable and honest. Like I remember just being like in love with the song and in love with everything that we had talked about in creating that song. But anyway, it was a good night.
I just remember thinking that I didn't know how you mustered the energy to do that, because it was a lot. I was almost dead, and I'm a morning person, but the song was good, so I was like kind of rolling on that adrenaline.
Yeah.
But everybody else was like, "I'm good, I'm good," and they were dozing off, and you were like, just going freaking crazy.
Yeah.
It was great.
That was fun. So
yeah, I'm glad that's coming out, because it's been sitting there for a minute.
So you think that that's definitely a contender? Like that's gonna happen?
I feel like it's sort of the champion of the world. more than a contender. I think it's like maybe it starts with that song or something. Oh, maybe there's that other one though. It's on there.
What?
That's what I think.
Okay, it's okay. It's on there. And then what else were you thinking about? Okay, so If the World Ends is definitely like the first one that we started talking about doing. We're like, let's do this. Let's release this song because we loved it and we wrote it at a place where like both of our lives were changing and just like, separately, but like we just came in and we're like, oh, gotta write that song that, just feels like the apocalypse is happening. You know what I mean? So that's a really special song. And then The End of the Beginning. And then what else were you thinking about?
The End of the Beginning. There's a song called Revelation that also, I think what we've been doing on this, with this EP, apart from, actually, all the songs we sort of tricked ourselves into thinking that maybe we were doing something else. And we were making your EP, which is sort of how we always were. we're kind of doing stuff for our own purposes, but trying to do it for some other reason. But and that's what the best of the stuff that we've ever done in co-written has felt like, just doing it because we love it, and then it ends up kind of landing somewhere. But these ones are landing here.
I feel like okay, I'm going to be totally honest. Like Revelation is one of my favorite songs that we've recorded together, but I always felt like that was in a really special place in your heart because I guess of how it was written and everything. So I didn't know if that would be like, would you be up for releasing that or not?
I am. I mean, here's the thing. Like, I have weird issues around. Let me back up. Not issues. Like songs that my solo albums are populated with all songs I've written just totally by myself.
Yeah.
Just because of the way I look at my records. So it was like immediately, because it was a co-write, it was immediately kind of off the table for that.
Right.
But I always loved it so much, and I kind of for the people out there listening, when it was first written, I sang the original demo, and always was dug it and was proud of it, but that's kind of all I needed, even though I have my attachments to it. And then we changed the key, and you sang it, and it was like, it just became a different monster, a more feminine monster.
Right.
But it worked. Just like I was listening to that this morning too, like on repeat, probably 8 or 9 times, and it was just, that's another killer vocal performance. I can't talk, but I kind of feel like it should be on there too.
Okay, so that's a possibility, or like that's like 98%.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we had. Was there another? There was another one, or there was another 2.
There was another 2. So The End of the Beginning. We have a thing about the end on this thing.
Yeah.
The End of the Beginning, If the World Ends, and then possibly Revelation, and then there's You Can Call It Love.
Yeah. Oh my God. This is, I mean, oh my God. Okay, so, I don't know if I know that you were in the studio for part of my vocal performance because it was one of those nights where I was like adjusting the mic and sitting on the piano stand and moving around, just like antsy and emotional and all that crap that happens. But the thing that I love the most about that song, and this is a narcissistic kind of selfish thing, but like the version of the vocals that you ended up picking were the ones where I was crying the entire time. Wow. So that was a pretty emotional, cathartic song for me. And I don't know if it's as special to you, but it's really, 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 really super special to me. So.
No, it is to me too, which is kind of why I feel like it needs to be on there. Because I don't even. It's funny that those are the vocal takes that we picked. Because I don't know if I was totally aware. It's pretty dark in there. I mean, there was that moment where Gannon was at Pro Tools. Gannon Arnold, shout out, Ganfu.
The man, the myth, the legend.
Frank. But I remember I went in to adjust something and it ended up just sitting on the stairs while you did this one like take of the complete outro of all just kind of improvised stuff, and it was the golden nugget. We kept the whole thing, and for those of you out there, like if you're sitting in the studio with somebody singing, first of all, that person has to be pretty secure to have somebody like sort of in the room sitting there while they're singing, because I couldn't hear the track at all, so I'm just hearing her singing, and it was pretty amazing. It was super cool to hear just the pure vocal and just energy going into it. But I don't think I've ever done that before. I've just been in the room with myself singing, but
well, that's kind of the same thing, isn't it? Yeah, that was awesome.
Killer. That was another late night session.
It
was.
Was.
The session where Gannon thought he heard a ghost or something?
Oh my, no, that was something that he went in to do like a background screaming, yelling, remember? And
okay, yeah.
that
no,
was...
he was on the piano, right? Or I don't know what it was.
Oh, maybe. I don't know, but
Something fell behind him, and then he felt like a cold burst of air.
And then the light went out.
The lights.
Yeah, I was yelling that it was my dad. It's amazing.
Gannon walked in, and he's already kind of white as a ghost, but whiter than a ghost. And the look in his eyes, like, you know how when somebody's really scared, their eyes get all glassy?
Yeah.
And their body's kind of stiff, and their eyes are wide. And I looked at him, and I got the same feeling. Like, I got the chills, and I started laughing, but my eyes started watering because I was scared, but I was like kind of excited that it was happening.
Yeah, right.
Because I'm like, I don't believe in this stuff, but this is crazy. And he's like, dude, I'm serious, man. I'm not going back in there. And so you started like totally just completely getting on board. And I'm sort of like level-headed, but I don't understand why I'm sort of scared.
I'm sort of scared, but I'm level-headed. Amazing. Like
I just felt like this isn't going to affect me, but like I could see it was Gannon. I was like picking up.
Yeah, you were picking up his vibes.
On his fear.
Yeah.
And so he wouldn't go in, and then we talked for like a minute, and then I went in, and the room was dark, and I'm like, what is going on? And I was just standing there, and you guys, I think, stayed in the other room. And I stood there for probably 20 seconds, and then heard a little click, and the lights went back on.
Yeah.
And here's the
him and I were standing outside the door. So we were outside the door of the studio, and like, you know, we were still in the control room, and you were in the recording room, and you were standing right under the lights, like, yeah, like, because you just could feel the energy, and then all of a sudden the light went on. You just looked at both of us like, whoa,
it's over. And then the funny thing was, though, is I was thinking, like, I was trying to just sit there and be like logic guy, like, how could this have happened?
Yeah.
And my mind wandered to the scariest thought, and I thought of this skeleton that I have upstairs.
Yeah.
And when I thought of it, that's when the light turned on.
Wow.
So, coincidence?
Dun dun dun. Well, we'll never know. It's just a little memory cell in our brains now.
I actually figured out why it happened.
Come on, are you joking around?
The story.
No, do you really know why it happened?
Yeah.
Why?
Because, okay, let me get this straight.
You better get it straight, because I don't, like, no half-assing this.
I'm bursting your bubble.
You're totally bursting my bubble. I thought there was a ghost in the studio with us. All right, what happened for real?
All right, and you might be able to confirm this due to your many talents. So, you know this, Anna, but the studio, like, I'm all about dimmers, so it's all kind of vibey and dimmy in here.
Yeah.
And I had this bad habit for maybe 7 years straight where I didn't want to walk in and have to turn the lights on and create the vibe, so I would never turn the lights off. And so I'd always walk in and it would feel like, oh, the studio's just like rolling and I'm just coming back.
Yeah.
So the lights are just never off. And that day, for some reason, one of you, I don't know if it was you or Gannon, but dimmed the lights, I think, all the way down to the bottom.
Okay.
That's what happened. And then, so it seemed like they were completely off.
Uh-huh.
I think that's what it was.
Uh-huh.
And then, and they're the kind of dimmers that you set the dim and then you can turn them on and off and it goes back to the same
same dim, yeah.
So I think they were dimmed all the way down but not turned off. And then that caused them to jolt back on. Or it was the opposite. Is that they were turned all the way on and then finally turned off, and they hadn't been turned off in like months.
Like, let me tell you something. They were all the way on. That's what it was. What happened was they were dim when we started recording, and then when we had recorded some stuff, and then he had to add a piano. That's right. Now I remember. He had to add a piano part. Remember, and he was figuring it out because it originally wasn't. It was like a piano part we had to add or something. So he went in there, and you were like setting up to record him, new track, blah, 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 whatever. And I was just sitting there kind of like on my phone or whatever, getting ready. And then you could hear him playing because the mics were live, in the room. And then we all, the lights went out. So it was like, hey, what just happened? Because it wasn't like the electricity went out in the whole place. The lights just went out. And then,
that's what it was.
Yep. Yeah. And then he rushed through the door, opened the door, and we looked in. It was like dark, and you went and stood in under the light, and you were like, what happened? And the light from the control room was shining on you. And after that, 20 seconds, and you must have thought of that skeleton upstairs or whatever, and then the lights came on. It was like, holy shit. And I was like jumping up and down and going, because you guys are naysayers. No. You guys are naysayers. You don't believe in all that spooky stuff. And every time I have a story about something that's happened, I know you guys are like, it's cute. Anna has this story, but she's totally out of her mind. And so I was so happy because I was like, finally, there's a ghost here. I finally have proof and my friends will believe me. And then, it was like, whatever. Now you're telling me it was a dimmer that was defaulted.
I think you're right, though. That was it, because he went in there, and I never turned the lights all the way up, and I think he just went I want light, and turned one light all the way up.
What did he say again? No, he said, I want light.
Oh. So I think that's what it was. My lights were like, I've never been on like this, and they just didn't like it.
Yeah.
That's even worse of an explanation.
Yeah. Well, anyway, back to the point and away from the ghost, is that we have an EP that we should release. And I realize now that we were talking on the phone and I've been recording us that we should just do a couple of podcasts in person so that we can talk about opposing views on lots of different issues. Maybe not issues that we'll get into. No, I don't want to get into a fist fight, and I don't want to fight because I like my podcast to be soothing and empathetic and all of that, and we're just going to get into a fight because we fight a lot.
Just softballs back and forth about opposing issues?
Yeah, Nerf balls.
Just a Nerf issue discussion. Okay, cool. Let's talk. We'll do it,
okay.
Talk about just basic, just simple, low pressure issues.
Low budget issues.
Yeah, Hillary versus Trump.
Oh my God, no!
ISIS, just basic things.
No, we're going to talk about your book and how people can holistically get closer to creating the artists that they are, right? We should talk about that at some point.
I'm down to talk about that.
Okay, well, we'll do this at some other point, and I think we should set a date to do that. But the point is we need a name for the EP. So I'm going to go back and talk about mental issues that people have, and I'm going to leave you to do all the work on my EP.
I'm just going to go have mental issues. I'll be like a case study. That sounds perfect. I can't wait for it to come out.
Okay, cool.
We'll do that.
Let's do it. Let's do that soon.
That'll be our launch EP.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, I'm glad you picked up your phone,
I
and
am too.
I hope your beautiful family is well. And hopefully, I will see you soon.
Likewise. All right. Bye,
Okay.
everybody out there.
Bye.
Bye.
I guess that's the way to get answers and things done, is to just make a phone call while you're doing a live podcast, and things get done. Okay, so that was, again, my friend Adam Watts, who's a very talented author, songwriter, producer, and artist. And I'm going to leave, if you look down in the little dip, I'm going to leave all the links where you can find out about him, because he's my favorite artist and singer. So you should check it out, because anything that's my favorite, I hope will become your favorite too. All right, let's take a couple more questions and see what happens. What is your favorite quote? And this came from at SYDTUMBOKON, Sid Tumboken. Cute. I love that name. Okay, I'm gonna tell you my favorite quote. Are you ready? Okay. Okay, this is from, I have a couple that I'm going to tell you, but this is one of my favorites. It's by Anais Nin. She's one of my favorite all-time writers. I just love her, and I love her expression of life and creativity. Here's a quote. I postpone death by living, by suffering, by error, by risking, by giving, by losing. And the reason why I love that quote is that it's about the embrace of all the shit in life that we look at as like, oh, I don't want this to happen to me and all that. And you guys have heard me talk about this in my podcast before. Like, the purpose in life is not to have this perfect, pristine Barbie doll life. The purpose of life is for it to be real murky, and you get in the dirt and you have a really hard time and you suffer and you feel things, and that's where we grow the most. That's how our heart learns to repair and love again, and repair and love again, and to take risks. All that is the beauty of life. Like, how boring it would be if we didn't suffer, make errors, take risks, by losing. Like, all of those things make us create character in our life. So that's one of my favorite quotes by her. And then there is another one, which is probably the most famous quote by her, but I love it so much. So listen to this. It's by Anais Nin. It's by Anais Nin again, and it goes like this. And the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. Oh, I just love that quote. It's just so good. So good. I'm not a religious person. I honor all of religions, all of the religions. I honor all of the religions, but I have this one little crazy idea about the universe and how we began. And I don't know if it's true or not. It feels true to my heart. And I know that a lot of people feel like what they believe is true to their heart. So who knows, right? But the reason why I love this quote so much is that it represents to me what we feel like as humans, that staying tight in what we know became too much to bear, that we had to blossom and let go, right? And it was like that pain. Oh, it's so beautiful. But I think that that's what happened when the universe was created. So my belief is that there was this little tiny speck of light, that was like, could fit on the pin, on the tip of the pin. And it was all that there was and all that there is. And it had consciousness, but it had no recollection of where it had come from, or how long it had been there, or if there were others like it. And it had a certain type of loneliness. And it started to dream. It started to dream images in its mind, and it started to experience things in its dream state. It was dreaming all of these things, and it dreamed us. And I believe that as it began to dream us, it dreamed more and more of us, and it fell in love with these little characters in its mind, in its dream. It just fell in love with all these little things, animals, plants, colors, shapes, sounds, all of it. Just imagine not having anything and starting to create all of these different things in your mind. And as it fell in love with the idea of creation, it started to hurt. And the hurt and the loneliness and like the emptiness kind of took over, and it knew that it loved these little things that it created so much that it wanted to give life to it. And that pain became greater than the dream. And so all that is knew that it would have to give up a piece of itself. It would have to let go of the boundaries to create all of its dreams. And so it just in one split millisecond that we can't even conceptualize in our brain, just let go, because it loved so much. And that love is what we were born of. When they say that we are made of stardust, I believe that all of that was just love. I mean, I might be crazy. I am crazy. We all know that. But you know how they can measure right up till like the itsy bitsy teeny weeny little tiny gazillion second before the Big Bang. And they're like, we can't define this. We don't know what it is. Like, we've been able to define everything, the heat that happened and the expansion and this and that. They can define all of that with math, but they cannot define that one moment that they don't have a word for. And I think the reason that they can't explain it is because that moment is love, and you can't measure it, and you can't put it on a scale, and you can't, define it really. And that's what I think that's how we got here, is that the universe loved all of us, and boom, Big Bang. My theory, anyway. I'm sure if Einstein was here, he'd be arguing with me or whatever. And I'm a big fan of Stephen Hawking, but I think that if him and I ran into each other, he wouldn't want to hear what I have to say about that either. Anyway, so I am going to call it a day, and I am going to, oh, by the way, thank you for Sid. Thank you for the question about what my favorite quote is. There's also one of my, God, I'm like non sequitur hour, just jumping all over the place. I also have an amazing, I love Charles Bukowski, and I'm actually typing to see what my favorite quote he has. I remember it in my brain, but I want to get the exact quote. So I love Charles Bukowski, and I love his writings. And so these are two of my favorite ones by him. So one is, some people never go crazy. What truly horrible lives they must lead. Oh, I just love that. It's like you really have to go crazy to experience life. You have to go a little bit mad, right? And the other quote I love of his, I love all of his quotes, but the other one that is relevant right now is, what matters most is how well you walk through the fire. How do you take all of the shit is thrown at you? And how do you take on all of the crap and the bad times and the burn, the burn of heartbreak and the pain of life and the misery? How do you take that? That's what matters most. That's what creates. This is what we've been talking about the whole time. So thank you for your question. Those are my 4 favorite quotes of today. And I really appreciate all of you guys that when I write to you and ask you for questions, that you're so kind. And I want to do a special happy birthday shout out to Leo Hernandez, because I forgot to say happy birthday on his birthday. And I apologize. I don't always check in on Twitter, and I don't, sometimes I'm a scatterbrain. Everybody knows that about me. But I do my best, and I do love you, and I want to say happy birthday. So hopefully next time I will have an update with the EP release date, and the name of the EP and the track listing. I'm so excited. Like, there might actually be music coming out that I've been holding on to for a long time, with Adam and also Gannon. So I love you guys. I'm going to leave some links in the bio that you should check out because you need to know about great artists that you don't know about right now, but you need to find out about it. So I love you guys. And remember to be kind to one another and kind to yourself.